Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode number 58. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here on this Friday show, December 3rd. Dave, how you doing?
Hello, friends. Ravens week. Here we are, the first of two Ravens weeks here. And at the top of the show here, let me make an apology. I said ass at the beginning of the last show that didn't get edited out in my opening comments with Alex there. So I apologize for saying ass. Hopefully I didn't offend too many people.
The FCC complaints are pouring in, it looks like. So there you go.
Well, there you go. You know, it's good. I was able to edit out probably some other things that were ahead of that show. No, with all seriousness, though, I appreciate everybody listening and my editing skills. I try to multitask sometimes way too much, and that's not my wheelhouse, and that's how bad editing happens. So I'll try to be more careful.
All right, Dave, let's start things off here with the Pittsburgh Steelers Thursday injury report there and some other COVID-related news, unfortunately, to discuss. Let's start, though, with the injury report on Thursday. It looked pretty full. Not practicing for the team included Isaiah Buggs added to the Thursday report with an ankle injury. Also not practicing, I think, included Joe Hayden was a DNP. Actually, I should say Isaiah Buggs was limited practice, not DNP, but still a new injury there for him. Zach Banner did not practice for the second straight day due to an illness, which we don't know what that is, obviously. And Arthur Millette was added with a quad, and he did not practice. So Hayden, Millette, Banner not practicing on Thursday, so it looks like Hayden is unlikely to go against Baltimore. That's a disappointment and a surprise. And if Millette's not available, then your cornerback room gets pretty thin in a hurry. Absolutely.
I don't have the optimism when it comes to Hayden that I had at the beginning of the week, and maybe Mike Tomlin as well too. Kind of gave the notion that maybe he'll be on the road back this week. Doesn't look like there. Millette, you don't need that popping up on the injury report. We'll see what happens on Friday there. Zach Banner, man, they're already going to have to make at least one elevation on Saturday with Joe Haeg. I mean, we're agreeing Joe Haeg's not going to play, and we're agreeing that Spillane, both those guys will probably ride through the weekend on the COVID list, possibly TJ Watt as well there. So we'll have to see what happens with Banner. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Hopefully he can get back to practice on this Friday, because if not, the Steelers still will probably want to dress 8 offensive linemen in total. And if Banner doesn't go, then they'll need one extra in addition to, I'm imagining Chaz Green is one of those elevations there. So we'll obviously learn more about what the Friday injury report says later this afternoon, and on into Saturday. I would expect some elevations, and keep your fingers crossed about TJ Watt. I guess he's not taking part in the media session on his normal media session on Friday. So and that's obvious because he's still on the COVID list there. But maybe something can happen on Saturday with him and him get cleared. But another busy weekend, or at least a Saturday forthcoming for the Steelers.
Yep, there's still a chance Watt could get cleared, but history says it's about 10 days, 8 to 10 days for those guys to clear protocol, and so Watt unlikely to do so. We'll just see what happens officially on Saturday. With Millette, I mean, maybe it doesn't matter as much because I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be in sub a ton in this game, and he doesn't play in dime, Millette does, unless there are injuries. But maybe Millette could have been one of those wrinkles and extra pieces added because of that run-stopping ability to try to thwart somebody like Lamar and just kind of play downhill. So maybe he could have had still value to this team the way Mike Hilton did last year in those Ravens games. But so if Hayden does not play, does Pierre start? Or considering the performance last week, do they go with Witherspoon.
Oh,
To tackle Lamar.
Oh Lord, yeah, I think you got to go with Pierre in that instance and just pray that he learns from some of his mistakes this season here. Pierre obviously a lot more physical corner than Witherspoon is there, so. That would be the way I go. And bad week for Isaiah Buggs to have an ankle injury to crop up. Right, it already looked like his status was going to be sketchy when it came to the inactive list. Anyway, when you look at the depth chart, and Mike Tomlin's not one to really shuffle a depth chart around much of any during the season there, but it was a notable change for whatever it's worth. That Henry Mondeau was put ahead of Isaiah Buggs on the depth chart on Tuesday's release, and then obviously you have Montravius Adams. There's one thing to look forward to. I think we're going to get to see Montravius Adams in a number 57 uniform this week, and probably, I don't know, maybe a lot of them as well.
Yeah, Keith Butler seemed to be impressed by the initial, practices of Adams. We'll talk about that there shortly. So, yeah, just to clarify, as you mentioned earlier, Joe Haig, Robert Spillane put on the COVID list, I think, since we last talked. And so Spillane already dealing with a knee injury that was probably going to keep him out of Sunday's game. Now almost certainly to miss, basically guaranteed to miss because of the COVID situation. So Pittsburgh currently has 3 players on COVID. That's TJ Watt. That is Joe Haig, and that is Robert Spillane. Ray McLeod was activated on Wednesday, so good to at least get McLeod back as this team's return man and also, slot rotational player.
And I guess we can look forward to Buddy Johnson in a helmet on Sunday against the Ravens. Witherspoon in a helmet again. And then once again, we'll have to see how these offensive linemen and all shake out. But all right, that's that. And then when you flip over to briefly, normally don't spend a lot of time on.
Well, should know just really quickly, Pat Freiermuth has practiced full with a concussion, and so he should be good to go, which was good, obviously good news there.
Absolutely good news there. Flipping over to the Ravens injury report. Man, they got a lot of names on there, that's for sure, and a lot of their players haven't practiced so far this week. Now, Chris Westry, the cornerback, I don't think has been active the last couple of games, so that's not a huge deal there. But Owa with the shoulder showed up, I think, on the injury report on Thursday, is not practicing. Marlon Humphrey still not practicing because of an illness. Tavon Young, I forget which one was a new one there, but Tavon Young with an illness. Here we are in COVID world and don't know what any of this means, but it is worth watching kind of, what happens on Friday with their injury report, because if they don't have guys like Young or significantly Marlon Humphrey, then that really changes the things when it comes to their defense, and really for that matter, Owa as well too, because he's starting to come on to his own after missing, I think, some time early in the season there.
Yeah, 5 sacks in the season for Odafe Owe, and so he's done really well as this team's top round pick. And so I think the big notable thing for them was it looks like Calais Campbell's going to play for them this weekend. He went through practice full yesterday after missing time with a concussion, and so he's always played well. Just in general, had a great NFL career. This dude's 35 years old and still playing well, but against Pittsburgh, he's always done well. And so a big, long, strong dude that's going to be a handle for that young Steelers offensive line.
Yeah, and I guess the only other takeaway from it, just looking at the participation, I wouldn't imagine that the Ravens are in pads this week the way the Steelers are. I don't know. Don't know for sure. I don't know if I haven't seen anything on Twitter or anything to indicate that the Ravens are in pads, but, maybe there's a little something to that. I don't know. We'll definitely find out on Sunday. But definitely worth watching both of the injury reports. We'll have those up right away when they come out around noon or 1 Eastern time. We'll have them up on SteelersDepot.com.
Certainly. All right, Dave. Coordinators spoke yesterday, as they always do, Keith Butler and Matt Canada. Let's start with the man of many words, but not a lot of really substance, Matt Canada speaking. And again, not a whole lot there to discuss. Did you have any sort of notable takeaways in terms of what Canada had to say with the media yesterday?
Yeah, just other than kind of more of the obvious stuff when he did say words that mattered, and this team needs more chunk plays.
This just in.
Yeah, breaking. This team needs more chunk plays for sure. And if you look at, I posted the differential stats on my Twitter feed, rankings league wide there, and it's probably not, for those listening, probably not going to be a big surprise. But the Steelers in the differential column alone, when it comes to explosive plays, not great at all. In fact, what are they, last in the league? I think in let's see, let me pull it up specifically.
Is this a differential specifically?
Yeah, no, this is explosive runs. I'm sorry, explosive runs of 20 yards or longer. The Steelers are worst in the NFL in differential at -9. They also have a league worst when it comes to explosive runs of 20 yards or longer allowed at 14, and obviously they've only produced 5 explosive runs overall. Now the regular total pass and run, I don't have them in front of me, but obviously the Steelers are way down in that category too, especially when it comes to offensive explosive plays. This team seems to be like averaging, I don't know, two a week, and that's just not enough. And they are going to probably need, I don't know, Alex, how many? 4 against the Ravens, you would think, and try to keep the lid on the other side there. But I mean, back to the main takeaway with Matt Canada is he's well aware of the fact that they need some chunk plays, and it'll be interesting to see if the Steelers can get some on Sunday against the Ravens team that's given up a few of them now.
Worst in football. No,
right.
Actually the worst in football in terms of giving up the big pass plays. It is interesting. The Steelers are near the bottom in plays of 20-plus yards in terms of pass plays with 31, but they are actually tied 4th in the NFL with 8 plays of 40-plus yards through the air. And so that's an interesting stat there. It certainly does not feel like they're as explosive as that particular number indicates. There again, 8 completions of 40-plus yards.
And another thing, going back to last season there, remember we had a couple articles and some charts and graphs about Chase Claypool and pass interference penalties drawn, and he's just not getting those this year. And those are, that's hidden explosive plays when it comes to that stuff. So, I think overall Claypool's explosive play receptions are probably right on par or on pace with what he had last season. But when you throw in I forget what he had, 8, 9 pass interference penalties, I think 7 of them or so were 20 or more yards down the field. That's where you're really missing, and that stuff doesn't show up, in explosive play differentials or anything like that. So, but if you go back, I think at least one of those games, I think Claypool drew, I want to say 2 defensive pass interference penalties against the Ravens in one of those, at least in one of those games last season. So I don't know, but they definitely need to get more explosive plays. I'm not expecting them on the ground there. In fact, the 5 that the Steelers have so far this year on the ground, one of them was by Rudolph with a scramble, and I think the other 2 were end around runs with Diontae Johnson and Claypool, and then I think Naji has the other 2 if I'm not mistaken there. So got to find a way to get some chunks in this game, man, because Canada kind of laid it out. You open up games okay, you're going to 13, 14 plays or whatnot. You got to make sure you bury those in the end zone for sure. But once they kind of get out of that open and script, it really seems really, really clunky at that point. And you just, with this offense, particularly this year, with all the young players and all, you just can't expect this offense to go 8 or 10, 11, 12 plays. You need some chunk plays in there, and you need to get yardage in a hurry.
With the Claypool lack of PI, do you put any blame on Claypool for that? Because if the thought is, as a receiver, in terms of just pure number of big plays, they're actually similar last year. You're just really missing the PI. Is there anything you can address that too, or is it just the luck of the draw if the ref's not calling it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I don't have an answer for that. It would be nice. That would be a kind of question I think that I would ask Matt Canada, instead of some of these other silly questions that he gets asked on Thursday. But I would pose the question to Matt Canada. Look, last season, Claypool was up there in pass interference penalties drawn. Why do you see that number down? Is it the luck of the draw? Is there something that you can, teach or along those lines? You don't feel like it could be,
Right.
Because
But I guess in theory, if a receiver's winning his rep, then he's going to draw more calls because the cornerback is trailing or is more desperate to break up the play.
True. I mean, but a lot of those even last year, if memory serves me, were more kind of contested balls anyway. I don't know. Do you just have to tell them you got to fight harder for some of those off-target balls? I guess Mm-hmm. But I mean, that is that's something that nobody talks about this year. They talk about Chase Claypool, maybe not making that second year jump that you were hoping to see. But I mean, once again, if you look at kind of the explosive plays that he's produced, I think they're kind of on par with last season. But I think the most notable difference with him is not getting those pass interference calls. So maybe I'm speaking that into existence. Maybe on Monday I can tip my cap and say, oh, wow, Claypool drew two key pass interference penalties deep down the field in that game. We'll see.
Hey, let's hope so. So that also Canada had some interesting comments on Anthony Mcfarlane and about him trying to work into this offense. Still saying there is time for Mcfarlane to try to get some sort of role in this offense. Obviously, it'll be limited, behind Naji, and that still requires Mcfarlane to get a helmet in the first place, which is no guarantee this season. I thought it was interesting that he did get at least one snap last week. I believe it was just one snap of a pony look with him aligned as the wing, which is what they did all training camp long. And they had to show it because of the injury, and they haven't really brought it back yet. And Mcfarlane, again, rarely even active this season. Excuse me. But, is there a role for him in that pony look in this game? Maybe there is.
Is he even going to be, is it 50-50 that he's even active? I guess we'll have to see the way the injury report shapes out and all like that. I mean, they obviously got him in a helmet last week. I don't know how much not having McLeod, maybe played a role in that or whatnot. But
I think it comes down to the third tight end or the fourth running back. That's the way this thing's basically been going. So Rader didn't dress last week, so it's a question of will Rader dress this week? And
probably not, right? I mean, what's going to happen with Banner, I guess. But even so, you're still going to have the 8 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
So probably not there. But here's the thing. Let's assume McFarland does get a helmet on Sunday. Man, if you get whatever you got in the bag of tricks right now, as far as maybe when he is on the field, I'm not saying you automatically up his snap count, in this game. But whenever you do get him on the field, if you do get him on the field this week, man, try pull out whatever you have this week, and not just McFarlane and all. I mean, if Canada's got anything in that bag this week, we better see it, because there is no tomorrow, Rocky 3, but that's what I would like to see if indeed McFarlane gets a helmet in there. You're probably only going to get 6 snaps or something like that, unless the game gets out of hand again. But when he is on the field, I don't know. I maybe try some pony and all like that. But I would do something that you haven't done this season.
Yeah, I mean, it was clearly part of this team's plan in the summer, and it got scrapped again because of the injury. So maybe they bring it back for 2-3 snaps again, assuming McFarlane's active, which we'll have to wait and see. But I think that's something to think about.
Loves the Steelers, has been very frustrating.
All right, Dave. Anything else from Matt Canada? Has talked about Diontae Johnson and his work ethic, and so Johnson's obviously made big strides this year, and a lot of that I think comes down to the film study that Johnson said he's improved upon, and just his overall work ethic. And
boy, is that guy playing well this season?
Loves the Steelers.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's become this team's most consistent receiver. It's one of the better route runners in football, and the numbers kind of reflect that. So on pace for, I think, 105 catch. I believe it's like a 1,200 yard, 6-7 touchdown type season, which is a really strong year 3 that he and this team, this offense needed.
And I think Deontay did speak was it yesterday? I'm losing track, but
yesterday.
I think the assumption is that Marlon Humphrey's probably going to follow him around, so it should be a pretty good matchup there. Even in that, you got to find a way to try to feed the ball to Diontae, I think. And man, what a great guy off of the line. And just an overall route runner. I thought it was interesting to kind of, and don't want to go too far off of the Canada script here, but he didn't tell us much of anything. But Diontae, and I believe you wrote this one up as well too, was spent a lot more time studying the opposition, or has been studying the opposing cornerbacks a lot more this year as opposed to previous years. So that's obviously good to see as part of his. You would kind of hope that kind of stuff would have happened, in his rookie season there. But I mean, it just speaks to his progression, and man, he obviously has the characteristics of a top 15 or top 10 even wide receiver. The way he runs his routes, the way he's gotten separation almost really from day one with him overall. And once again, He's probably the best vertical threat that you have on this team. So within that, I would try to get the ball up in the air to him at least a couple of times on Sunday against the Ravens, especially with them giving up several deep ball plays already this season.
I think it's important that you noted that, and Johnson did as well in speaking with the media yesterday, that we think about him. And obviously, 75% of the time he's used as that short catch, run long, three-step game yak threat. But he can win vertical. Dude's got a pair of 45-yard touchdowns this season on opening drives, I believe, versus Green Bay, and I think Denver was the other game. And so this guy can win vertically. But you're right, he's got a really tough matchup with Marlon Humphrey, who I believe shut him down in last year's matchup. And so other guys may have to step up because Humphrey's one of the better corners in football.
Get the ball to your guys that can yak it up in this game out in space as much as you can. Even if it calls for a couple of wide receiver screens in this, Deontae's obviously had several big plays on a couple of those quick slants this season as well. But feels like you're going to have a big game out of Diontae on Sunday to win this one.
Yeah, you may have to work extra hard to scheme him up with bunches and stacks and rubs and things like that to try to get him off of Humphrey and create some separation there. So that's probably going to be a more concerted effort to get Johnson to open up, because you're right, to win this game, to have consistent success in the pass game, you're going to need Deonte Johnson. And so that's going to be tougher to do this week given the matchup, but you still have to work just that much harder to scheme him open.
Yeah, I still can't get over going back and remembering some of that Maryland tape from when Mcfarlane was there his freshman year, and how Matt Canada used him, and kind of those horizontal motions out of the backfield. And I mean, just if you put both those, Naji and Mcfarlane, on the field together, and I don't know, line Naji maybe out wide or something, and then take Mcfarlane and pre-snap motion them horizontally out of the backfield. Some of that stuff that we saw on the Maryland tape there. If you're not overly confident with the way Mcfarlane can run some of that gap scheme stuff right now, and it doesn't seem like they can't run hardly anything between the tackles right now. Although the Ravens, if there was ever a team that you could probably run that on, it probably is this week. But just get the ball out quick to some of your skill players out in space, and Diontae should be one of them.
Yeah, and he needs to be involved in this offense, and I suspect that he will be on Sunday. Anything else from Canada? I think that kind of sums up his responses, interesting responses at least.
Yeah, I think that's all of it there.
He was asked one question. He said, "I appreciate the previous question." Just what a very politician answer there. I appreciate that question.
I mean, look, he gives the stuff that doesn't put him in the news, right?
Very much so.
I mean, so I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, I don't know if you've ever turned on NFL Network this season and seen clips of Matt Canada's press conference on there, because he doesn't say anything.
Yeah, he's a ratings killer for sure. That's probably the way that he likes it. So let's flip over to the much more entertaining coordinator, Keith Butler. Speaking, has he gotten a fair shake this year? Define fair shake.
Groceries versus, a good offensive coordinator always is able to do something regardless of the personnel that he has, right? Especially in the NFL level.
He's able to maximize and overcome those things. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
But
coach.
Within that, you still have four rookies playing considerable snaps on the offensive side of the ball, and I think your video breakdown of the offense against the Bengals how many snaps they just really wasted, and then you have the illegal the illegal formation penalties should probably make us even madder. We probably didn't get mad enough about that coming out of the Bengals game, right? Because you're already wasting snaps with execution of plays, and then you throw in silly stuff like illegal formation. Maybe we failed our listeners by not getting mad enough about that. And he was kind of asked about the penalty, those illegal formation penalties. He says 2 of your wide receivers led the group around the league in penalties. Is that anything you can talk to them about? Well, he says we addressed it all the way around. We've a lot going on, not just with those 2 guys, but early in the year we kind of got a little bit better at times, as anything in football. Football is such a game of momentum. It seemed like there was something else in there. I thought he was addressed the illegal formation stuff and all like that. But anyway, those kind of things really make you mad because they're stupid penalties.
They are. They're easily avoidable. And so Pittsburgh, I was asked, how can Pittsburgh attack the Ravens? And it was the question. And I said, it's more about Pittsburgh just taking care of their own business and cleaning up their own fundamental type stuff and not beating themselves before they can think about beating somebody else. And so just a lot of sloppy, disjointed, and very clunky play in a variety of ways against the Bengals. And obviously when you score only 10 points, 7 of those coming in garbage time, usually that's because you play pretty clunky and disjointed.
All right, I don't think we answered my question here, though. Has he gotten a fair shake? How much do you think Ben kind of limits maybe what he would like to do?
To an extent, I'm sure.
Does that matter in the critique of him?
I don't think it matters enough to say that you couldn't critique Canada or criticize him or anything like that. I think it limits him somewhat. But as you said, in the offseason, Canada does not need a mobile quarterback. I think he would like to have one more mobile than Ben, and it would open up some of the things that Canada likes to run. But I still think you can critique and evaluate Canada even with Ben at quarterback.
Does it feel like he's been over his head?
Well, I'm trying to figure out what that means. That's a trendy phrase to use. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter use. I don't know exactly what that means, though.
Just in the NFL game versus the college game, and just dealing with professionals versus dealing with the college players, and I guess would be the best way to kind of define that.
Right. But we don't see him interact with players. He's even up in the booth and when he's calling games. So how he interacts with guys is something we don't get to really be privy to. So it's hard to answer that question. Do I get the sense he's in over his head? No, not really, because you look at the opening scripts have been the best thing he's done this year. And so he's had a good game plan. So if he was in over his head, he probably wouldn't have those good opening scripts. So in that sense, I don't feel like he's been overwhelmed by the NFL. But again, that's a tough question for you and I to answer on the sidelines.
Right. Now, where we sit right now, what would you say the percentage chance is that Canada is back in 2022? You never know what way I'm going to take you down on these shows, do you?
Yeah, that's what I love the most. Boy,
it really sounds like you love it the most, but okay.
85%, 90%. I'm not going to guarantee it, but I think the odds are pretty good.
I could see him if something opened at college. I could see him maybe jumping ship on that. But overall, it feels like the Steelers won't make a change there. But we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not sure what would open in college because a lot of those jobs will be closed by then.
Right.
By
maybe an offensive coordinator. I don't know, but
maybe. Yeah, something. There still could be something open, but usually, head coaches are getting hired now over the next month. Bowl games will end, so I think most jobs will close up. But my expectation is that Canada will return. What was the last OC or coordinator to be one and done? in Pittsburgh?
That's a great question, right?
Tim Lewis, was he there? No, he was longer there. He was in Pittsburgh longer than a year, right? Or was he? How long did Tim Lewis last?
I don't know. We're really going down the rabbit hole now.
We're the Tim Lewis portion of the show.
You figuring that out here?
2000 to 2003, so like 4 years for Tim Lewis as and he was a DB's coach prior to that.
All right. Anyway, on to Keith Butler and his wife.
Yeah, and his wife says that getting mad at him for the way this defense is played. But more importantly, as you mentioned earlier, talking about Montravius Adams, and Keith Butler was asked, will Adams play? And Butler said, I ain't going to tell you. We'll see the way we play. But he did say that Adams looks good out there. And he said, he's moving well, and he comes off the ball, and he separates well. And so they need anybody and everybody to try to improve this pretty bad defensive line.
Absolutely. And as you noted, you would kind of expect them to have to be in base more in this game. So it'll be definitely something. So, a guy to zero in on Sunday and watch his snaps, assuming he gets on the field. They do have to do something different there, period. And, it doesn't – my early speculation would be that Carlos Davis is not going to be activated this week there, but even if he is, there's a lot of reason to try to get Montravius Adams on the field, I think.
Yeah, and Chris Wormley did confirm Adams was working as a nose tackle, so just you assume that based on the signing and where this team needs the most help, but Wormley said that Adams hasn't played nose tackle, so it's possible. I mean, again, you have your four. You'll have Hayward, you'll have Wormley, you'll have Loudermilk. Those are three. Am I missing anybody of the locks to dress in this one along the D-line?
Hayward, Adams, Wormley.
Is Adams a lock to dress?
I think so at this point.
Okay.
Why? He's meeting the media today, too. So I don't know. The media might know something they can't report, when it comes to what they've visually seen at practice there. So,
sure.
And they probably requested him to meet with them later today there. So because of that, I'm going to say yes, Adams is a lock.
Okay, so there's four. You need one more guy to dress. Who do you think?
Loudermilk.
Well, no, I'm including him in that four. Hayward, Wormley, Loudermilk, Adams.
Who am I missing there?
Mondo,
Henry Mondo, probably. Yeah, it's probably going to be Mondo.
I don't understand why they keep playing Mondo. I mean, I get it. I think maybe from an assignment standpoint that they like him and he's a good athlete, but he is just so poor against the run. And if you look at some of the big, and I know this is a broader number that isn't directly responsible for him, but when he's on the field, his team's averaging 7 yards per carry. Opposing offenses are averaging 7 yards per carry against him. And if you break it down to, when they run to his side, the numbers are about 6 to 7 yards still. So I just don't see what purpose he's serving.
Keith Butler is dadgum pissed off about how they're playing against the run. Well, you can get as mad as you want about this stuff. Just fix it,
Yeah, and that's what he said there. And he should be pissed off about these teams because I was doing the numbers. Pittsburgh's 31st in yards per carry allowed. I know that's not always the say-all end-all stat, but it's the easiest one to pull for some historical context. Last time Pittsburgh finished next to last or worse in yards per carry allowed defensively, 1964. And so then when they finished dead last,
before even old man Uncle Dave was born.
So there you go. So I would put this in the category of historically bad Steelers run defenses. And normally they've been historically good. And so you're on the other side of this one. It certainly hurts.
And not going to get any easier. And Keith Butler knows that when facing a very super mobile quarterback in Lamar Jackson. Now, to the Steelers' credit, but even I think it's only been two. How many games has Lamar played against? Because he was inactive last season, right? He's only played like 2 games against the Steelers, hasn't he?
Played once last year. Then had, I think, COVID the other game, and RG3 started. Yeah, it's been 2
And then the other one
games.
he sat because I think the Ravens were in the playoff or whatever. It was that rainy night, wasn't it, that RG3 started? So has he only played 2 games against the Steelers his career?
Technically a third. One came his rookie year, but he did not. That was still Flacco starting. But yeah, two career starts against Lamar.
And they haven't done bad against him overall.
They've defended Lamar as well as any team has defended Lamar, but it's still Baltimore's found ways to run the ball down Pittsburgh's throat just with other guys typically.
And he was, of course, can you learn anything from the past times that you played them? He's, well, teams change, yada, yada. They learn, some. So he said, we'll see. That's we'll see on Sunday. That's one of his standard responses there. Like this response about the ninth gap. Having to defend that when you have a mobile quarterback such as Lamar Jackson. So, they're going to be, like it or not, there's going to be a lot of zone in this. Was asked about fire zone particularly. It says, we've run it some this year, but you got to be careful when you do that kind of stuff, especially when you don't have one kind of like Vince Williams maybe helping run that on the inside there. He did point to that big play. What'd you think? Did you catch that?
Mm-hmm. The Chargers game.
Right. Is that the way you had?
Well, they blitzed Millette on that play.
Right. Okay.
Nickel blitz.
I thought he called that a fire zone, but
well, he might have been. Typically, the fire zone's cover 3. That wasn't a cover 3
right.
shell.
That's what kind of threw me there.
Yeah. It was hard to.
He seemed to indicate indicate that was a fire zone, but I don't remember seeing that on the tape.
Yeah, I don't know if he was saying that or he was just saying the overall idea of when you blitz and bring extra people, then you kind of put your secondary at risk of them having to cover with less people. And so maybe that was the overall idea of you stretched your secondary some, and that allowed a big play off of it. That seemed to be what Butler was getting at.
And then obviously because the narrative this past week is, go watch the Miami game. Well, he was asked, did you watch the Miami game? He said, oh yeah, we watched the Miami game. We watched all the games. Do they really watch all the games? Sometimes I wonder. And then he was asked, do you have any particular thoughts on the Miami game? And he says, I'll tell you after we play. So what all that means potentially is any Blitzburg fans out there, you might see a lot of blitzes on Sunday, but you better be careful, and as he stated, you better get home if you do, because if you do that, one too many times and they pick it up, you force your defensive backs to have to stay on guys like, I don't know, that Hollywood Brown kid's pretty good at getting open, then you're going to probably find one in the end zone on you.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh's personality has not been to run cover 0. I don't know if they've done it once this entire season. Maybe, but certainly you could count on one hand.
I think they ran it once against the Bangles, if I'm not mistaken. But
did they? Okay. But yeah, I mean, they've been anti-blitz this year because of the youthful secondary, because of the big plays they've allowed. So they would have to completely flip that switch, and maybe they will. Again, maybe you just try something different, and certainly blitzing Lamar seems to be the ticket in the NFL. But to do that, they'll have to step out of what they've done all season long.
And I thought Tyler Boyd had some. Did you see Tyler Boyd's comments previewing the Chargers and their secondary this week, saying something along the lines of, basically the Steelers, kind of predictable in the back end there. I'm trying to find specifically what he said. I got to pull that up because it caught my eye.
I have not seen that. That sounds like a good quote. I mean, Pittsburgh was very soft zone coverage against the Bengals. A lot of cover 3. I had a video that just showed pitch and catch. Just a lot of sit down, against zone coverage, show the numbers, and just some very easy pitch and catch there for Burrow and the Bengals. So Pittsburgh's defense has become, again, a shell of itself. Its personality has changed so much. I've harped on that for weeks now. This team is just schematically and personality-wise almost a 180 from where it was in 2019 and 2020.
Oh man, I wish I could find that quote, Alex. I can't. I'll keep looking for it. He said something along the lines of just the Steelers, something along the lines that the Chargers do a lot better job of mixing up their looks on the back end. That a lot more. The Steelers were a lot easier to figure out because of what they run. That kind of stuff. A lot of cover 3. That kind of cover 3, cover 2.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame. I mean, that seems to track based on what I've seen on the tape. But whenever your defense isn't playing as well, you got younger guys. You can't disguise things as well. You can't get as creative, and so it makes the read and the picture easier for the quarterbacks and the receivers as well. They have to read the picture as well, and so the Bengals did.
Man, that's driving me mad. I wish I could find it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm sure it'll pop up somewhere. But anything else from Keith Butler? He says, do you expect T.J. Watt? I hope we do, is what Keith Butler said. So
yeah, look. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have him, oh man, you're really going to have to dial up the blitzes, and I think to try to get pressure there. But look, just try to change your identity as much as you can this week, because if you don't, you're probably going to get a lot of the same, especially with the, we've seen what mobile quarterbacks have done to the Steelers team as of late here, and they're going to play the most mobile one on Sunday in Lamar Jackson.
All right, Dave, any other thoughts or things you want to get to from a player interview standpoint, a coach's interview standpoint? Any other news of the week to discuss?
Cameron Hayward and all talking, he's tired of talking about Steeler tradition and Steeler way, that kind of stuff, and it's not hard to blame him when it comes to that. Talking about all what the former players have said this week, and I thought Cam, as he usually does, handled all that kind of well. But whatever the message is this week, it better get across.
Yeah, I'm just tired of talking in general. It's about playing better and not talking about playing better, and it has to start this weekend, because if you don't do that against the Ravens on Sunday, you go to 5-6-1. Your path gets pretty small in terms of trying to get back in this race.
Man, it's already small when it comes to the AFC North right now, and it will go down to really nothing if you lose this game, and then your wild card chances will diminish as well too, especially depending on what happens around the rest of the NFL this week.
Yeah, I was really just saying your chances for the AFC just at large, because the North, if you lose this week, the Ravens go to 9-3, you're 5-6-1, you have zero chance of winning the North, and plus with the Bangles, the Browns, I mean, just zero chance.
Right.
All right, Dave, let's get to previewing this Ravens game and how Pittsburgh can hopefully win this one. Let's start here with the Ravens, who come in this game 8-3, fresh off a 16-10 Sunday night win over the Cleveland Browns, overcoming 4 Lamar Jackson interceptions. Let's start with this Ravens defense again. It's a good group overall. Maybe not quite the elite group that it's been, or the top 3, top 5 group that it's been the last couple seasons, but I think it's a very strong situational defense. Number 1 in third down defense, number 1 in red zone defense. That's a big reason why this team overall has been successful.
One of my biggest, I feel like we know these teams, this team particularly the last couple of years, what they do offensively and defensively. Overall, they still do a good job of kind of disguising their coverages overall. They have, as we noted earlier, they have given up some big plays though. But one of my biggest takeaways, more than ever this time around, is don't get in third and long. Just don't get in third and long, because they're going to come. Wink is going to dial up those different kind of pressures, and they've got a lot of different looks that they do with that. Sometimes they'll rush your head up, and sometimes they'll twist and stunt on you. And if they widen out those, if they get those patterns, Calais Campbell's probably well rested at this point too, and for an old man, that's probably really, really good news for them. But man, you just cannot let those edge rushers tee off on you on third and long situations when they absolutely know that you have to throw the football. And Queen's playing better the last couple of weeks. I think he went through a kind of a spell. Patrick Queen, their inside linebacker, went through kind of a spell earlier in the season. I think he might have got sat down for a little bit there, but he's playing much better football right now for them at the right time as well.
To me, no defense is more exotic or chaotic and as creative as the Ravens are in those third and long situations. And their blitz rate, their pressure rates are really high. I think third, fourth, respectively in the NFL. And they'll go amoeba front with one down lineman. They'll stand a bunch of people up. And with this young offensive line still learning and growing, not playing particularly well in pass pro, it's a really bad spot to be in. 3rd and 6 plus in this game. And so how you handle the pressures and the stunts, the overloads and the bluffs and all that just is a lot. But that to me is my biggest concern against this Ravens team, because they're going to dial up some pressures and blitzes and really stress test the Steelers offensive line.
They are probably going to try to shore up the middle a little bit stronger because the Steelers probably want to try to run a lot of inside zone and gap stuff, in this one. How do you combat that?
Yeah, I struggled to find a good run answer in terms of what teams were doing successfully against the Ravens, whose run defense has been overall strong. Their pass defense has been much weaker than their run defense. So I think maybe part of it is not run quite as much overall because you might be running into that brick wall that's going to put you in those third and long situations. I think you probably go more inside zone in this game, but I think overall you just have to be fundamental on Pittsburgh's side of things. And if you do that,
you mean don't have two guards pulling in the direction at each other there? That kind of execution.
Yeah, don't make it a Three Stooges comedy act, and you might have a chance in this one. So, again, I think it goes back to Pittsburgh just being more fundamental itself and to have a chance. That's kind of where it starts. But I think probably more inside zone in this one. But it is tough to see Pittsburgh having a lot of run success overall in this game because the Ravens' front is pretty stout, and the Steelers' running game lately has wilted.
Man, are we going to have to sit and watch Roethlisberger drop back 40-something, 50-something times in this game?
I mean, they had to do it last year to win, right? They had to play that catch up, and they went pass heavy and stopped running the football. So I know it's unpopular answer. I know I've said so many times this team needs to run the ball to have a chance, but it might be one of those games where you ask Ben to have the keys. You're at home, so crowd noise less of an issue than if you were playing on the road, and tell Ben to throw 50 times and run that quick game and elongated run game and try to win that way.
Yeah, and max protect. You better max protect when you think you got some shot plays called, and you're gonna have to have guys like Diontae and Chase winning when they do that.
Yeah, for sure. So, but like you said, if you are going to beat Baltimore, it will be deep. So I think you take some vertical shots. Now the secondary, I think, is playing better overall. They got some younger guys, Everett and Stevens and guys like that. I think are improving from maybe where this defense was at earlier in the season when they were scrambling to replace Peters and guys like that. And then they got some good safety play with Chuck Clark, and they did lose to Sean Elliott. So I think you attack this team vertically and take 5, 6, 7 shots in this game and just hope for either the PI or the catch.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get some chunks on them, period. And I just don't have a lot of optimism that they're going to be able to get those chunks on the ground. Get excited about a 7, 8, 9 yard run now. At this point, and boy, they could use a couple of those. But I suspect that the Ravens are going to kind of be ready for that, though, and try to shore it up a little bit, pay a little bit more attention between the tackles, trying to defend the run a little bit better, even better out the middle in this one.
Yeah. So, I think it'll be tough sledding. And again, you have to win situational football because the Ravens is number 1 in third down defense, number 1 in red zone defense. You got to find a way to overcome and capitalize in those big moments because if you can't do that, it's hard to win football games.
What do you think about Freiermuth's matchup this week?
I don't know exactly who he's going to get. Is it going to be Queen? Is it going to be Clark? Yeah, is it going to be somebody else? But yeah, I think Freiermuth has to be an asset, and especially when the Ravens bring pressure on third down, and you got to throw hot because there's probably going to be guys getting beat and overloads to get home, and so someone's got to be the hot receiver, and so that can be anybody, and it should be multiple guys. But Freiermuth's probably going to be a target on third down. And
I think this could be another one of those games where Naji Harris has as many receptions as he does carries.
Yeah, and pass protections as he does carries because he's going to need to be able to recognize and find this stuff. He's done a good job in pass pro the last 2 weeks of the Lions game in particular in terms of identifying and recognizing. That's 90% of the battle, and so I think he's done a good job in that regard. But Baltimore will be his biggest test.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave, flipping over to the offensive side of the football. Of course, this team led by Lamar Jackson. Running backs have been an issue with all the injuries they've had. They have Devonta Freeman and Latavius Murray being their top 2 guys. And so think about the Ravens. They're still running the ball well overall from a statistical aggregate number standpoint. Second best rush offense in football, over 150 yards per game. What do you do to try to slow down this Ravens rushing attack?
Lead pipe.
With you were playing a game of clues. This in
the conservatory
or the there you go.
Look, you have to hit Lamar Jackson every time you get a chance to legally hit him. Period. They will play a lot. They do a lot of good stuff with some. I think even you outlined maybe some bash concept stuff where they get you going one way and Lamar take off the other way with it. But a lot of the same things that they've done that have made them successful against Lamar, the 2 real times that they've played him so far, you have got to look out for that ninth gap. You got to have, Devin Bush is going to get a lot of spy opportunities, I would think, in this one. And you got to make sure that you mesh charge this guy as much as possible. It'd be nice if you had TJ Watt helping out doing that. But, you got to set the edges better. Highsmith's got to do a better job of right and wrong shouldering on the edge, because that's something that's gotten this team killed out on the edges here with a few of these quarterbacks is Highsmith wrong arming, and then just the edge is open there and off they go.
Yeah, I think, the big thing in this one is that mesh charge, which is anytime there's a mesh point, anytime there's some sort of potential read component, you attack the quarterback every single time. And you can legally hit him because he's considered a runner. It's on a pass play. And so that's the mesh charge. They've done that in the past. They did against Lamar and RG3 in games past against Baltimore because, A, you want to be physical and, make Lamar pay the price for running the mesh there. And then B, you want to force the give because the running backs aren't nearly as explosive or dynamic. It's not like J.K. Dobbins is back there, even Gus Edwards. You got, older guys like Freeman and Murray, guys they've added midseason. So you want to make Murray and Freeman beat you as opposed to Lamar, who's their only perimeter threat and things like that. So I think the mesh charge will be used in almost every single instance in this game. It should be used in this game anyway. And so that's probably the first and the biggest place to try to slow down Lamar Jackson in this run game.
Yeah, they're just they're typical going to put their big uglies out there, and Ricard's going to move all over the place in that format. You really got to be. This is a game where you wish you had Vince Williams back in uniform right here, because really good at kind of reading the keys of the offensive linemen and things like that. You have got to be a step ahead of them and have a good idea of what's going to happen when these guards get on the move. Where Ricard lines up in the offense, because they will move that guy all around, and that's like having just another offensive lineman that's super mobile with them. So it's going to be tough, man. And here's the thing: I think 8 explosive plays on the ground for the Ravens this year. Lamar, I think, has 6 of them, 5 or 6 of them, and then the running backs have the rest of them there. So they're not, those running backs aren't the ones that obviously going to kill you. They better not. If the Steelers let one of those running backs start running downhill early in this one, you forget about there, because that's the last thing that should happen in this game is the Ravens running backs running downhill the way say Joe Mixon ran on them on Sunday there. So stop the run, and that's easier said than done when you have a mobile quarterback such as Lamar Jackson, who, as Keith Butler said, creates a 9th gap for you to have to cover here. So it's concerning. I mean, you're going to have depending on Adams, how much he plays in this one. He's not a 2-gapper, so he's going to have to make sure he reads right and shoots the right gap. And if you got those corners coming off the edge, they've got to make sure they make a few plays on the backside. Highsmith's going to have an extremely great game as a run defender in this one, and make sure he's setting that edge well over there on the Alejandro Villanueva side.
Yeah, the issue with the mesh charge is you force the quarterback to give the ball, but you're playing with one fewer guy defensively because he's now on the quarterback only, essentially. And so you're going to have to play 8-man boxes and bring Edmonds down in this one to try to replace that. And, yeah, Lamar creates an extra gap, but they just create gaps by their multiple tight ends. They'll bring in, obviously, Andrews and Ricard and Eric Tomlinson, and they'll align all those guys to one side. So instead of just having let's say an A, B, and C gap to defend, you got to defend D gap, E gap, F gap. I mean, it just really kind of stresses you and forces you to play gap sound and every man to play gap sound. So it's less about one guy to me as it is the collective. You got to play really strong 11-man run defense to slow down Baltimore. Every man has to do their job and play their gap, and if one guy fails, they all fail. That has to be the approach this team takes it with against a really good scheme by Greg Roman and this Ravens rushing attack.
And they're going to want to get them those interior offensive linemen out to the second level and on Devin Bush for sure. So we've been asking for it. If Devin's got anything, wants to show anything, now, we said last week he needed to show it. Well, he didn't show it last week. If he doesn't show it this week, they're going to have strong, and not just Devin Bush, Schobert too, because, both those guys have really got to have a good game. And here's the thing with Lamar too. He still doesn't have the best ball security, so that plays into just making sure you hit him every chance that you have a chance, because he will turn that football over and fumble the football. And you got to make sure if he puts that ball on the ground, man, the Steelers have got to come up with it there. So that plays into hitting him as much as you possibly can, and not just hitting him, but aiming for that football, because his ball security throughout his career has not been great, and they are going to need a turnover or two at least in this game, and probably steal another possession somewhere else. So they're going to want to try to win this game.
5 fumbles in 10 games this year for Lamar, 36 in his career already in 56 career games. So, yeah, I totally agree with you there, Dave. And, yeah, the last thing I want to note for the Ravens run game is that bash concept you mentioned. The Ravens run it. The Bears got a touchdown off of it, that Mooney touchdown a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure Baltimore has seen that tape and said, let's try that bash concept, which is back away. So the back's going to run opposite. There'll be 2 pullers to go one direction. The back will go the opposite direction. The quarterback can either keep the ball and run behind the pullers, or he can hand the ball to the running back away from the pullers out on the edge. So it's a really good misdirection scheme.
And I think Mark Andrews is the guy that you got to just raise your hands up and say, all right, let as long as it's not deep down the seam, which that guy.
That's how he wins, though.
Yeah,
he wins that way.
Or those flag routes, right, towards the sideline there. But it feels like you got to let Mark Andrews have like 10 catches, but for like 60 or 70 yards, and keep him out of the end zone in this one.
Sure, but how do you limit him to 6 yards per catch when he's averaging 12.7?
You got to just try to keep it up underneath and then tackle him right away and hit him hard, But I mean, you pay too much mind to him, man. It's really 2 guys in their passing game. It's Marquise Brown and it's Mark Andrews. Those are the guys there. But I fear Brown getting loose up over the top, because he will big play you in a hurry. But it just feels like with Andrews, because you're gonna he's a master at finding the soft zones and those kind of things there. So you're going to have to, I think, let him have his, but just try to get him on the ground quick. Maybe try to rip the football out. And obviously, when you get into red zone territory, keep him out of there.
Yeah, Minka's going to be a big key in this one, defending the seams, being able to close and rally, and being able to play over the top and help out those corners against Hollywood Brown. And, yeah, it's just so tough to do because you're so concentrated on stopping the run. So you're playing 8-man boxes and, attacking and being physical and playing the run first, but then they're going to play action you and throw down the seam or throw vertical, take their one-on-one shot there to Hollywood Brown. So it's tough. And even Bateman's coming on strong.
Oh, yeah, forgot about him, too.
25 catches in 6 games. He's already the 3rd leading receiver on this team, and so he's becoming a 3rd option. And there's still Sammy Watkins who can vertically can still run a little bit. So it's a lot to handle, and that's what makes Baltimore pretty potent.
Right, and Lamar's made some bad decisions as of late, so you got to kind of hope and take advantage of those if indeed he lets one of those fly. I mean, he's thrown a lot of questionable balls. Already has quite a few picks this year, and you just gotta you be in the right place at the right. You watch that game last night between the Saints and the Cowboys. And, man, just why you always look at these games and say, man, why can't the Steelers get turnovers like that?
Right.
And not just this year, but every year you see some the defensive lineman gets he doesn't bat the ball down, but it gets just enough of it that obviously changes the flight, and it ends up in the hands of the cornerbacks and all like that. And you just, man, why can't the Steelers get those kind of plays there? It seems like they have to really, really. Now, Burrow did give Minka a free one kind of last week, if you will, but you just don't see those other kind of turnovers.
Yeah, and then Pittsburgh gave it right back. So that's how they followed that up. I mean, they got the one from Cam. That's been their MO this year, is Cam making plays on the football. He's got an interception. He's got a bat that's led to the Sutton interception. So that's been the only way this team's really gotten turnovers this season. But, yeah, point taken. Lamar has definitely struggled. He's got 12 interceptions, already more than the 9 he threw all of last season. Obviously, had 4 against the Browns. That end of the half was wacky when they were just giving the football back to each other. So you got to capitalize on your opportunities, and that means disguising coverages a bit and spinning safeties late and showing a different post-snap picture than pre-snap picture.
And Tyson Alualu, one of the things that we talk a lot about how well he dominated centers and guards there in the middle of that defense. He was a master too, getting his hands up and getting tips on some balls. They obviously don't have him. You go back, I was watching some of last season's tape of Ravens Steelers, and Tuitt was just having, Tuitt had some pretty decent games against the Ravens, and you obviously don't have him. It's scary to think about when it comes to this offense overall, because like you said, there's just so many things that you have to, write that down. Write that down. Just so many things that you have to try to stop, and you can't stop it all. That's why I kind of feel that you might see Mark Andrews have a high reception game, but if you can keep keep him from explosive playing that might go a long way in winning this game. And look, they are going to make no doubt about it. They're going to move the football on the Steelers. So can you keep them to the long Justin Tucker field goals and keep them out of the end zone there?
Yeah.
So that's to me is a big component here on maybe key third downs in the Steelers end of the field, because there's probably going to be a few of them. You got to get off the field and making Justin Tucker drill one from 50 yards down the middle of the field is a huge win in this game, it feels like.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think you have to just bend but don't break, because you're almost guaranteed to bend. But can you hold up and force teams to only come away with 3 instead of 7 and keep that score down? I think that's a great point, and that's going to be a vital part of this game.
And don't let Hollywood Brown double move you, James Pierre on the outside. And Cameron Sutton's been susceptible. He just hasn't gotten, I think there's been some off target throws in there. But don't fall for that double move.
For sure. All right, Dave, any other thoughts on the Ravens? As you mentioned, good specialist with Sam Cook at the punter, and Justin Tucker at kicker always gives them an edge as well.
Guys feel like they've been there for as long as we've had this podcast, or as long since 2008. Cook probably has been there that long, hasn't he? How long?
06.
And how long has Tucker been there?
Not quite as long. I mean, look here, Justin Tucker, looks like 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, 2012, his first year.
Yeah, one kind of final note on this is you're going to have to still, in addition to maybe getting a turnover too, it feels like they're going to have to steal possession here. I don't know. Danny Smith needs to dial something else up here and it's rare for Cook to get a block, but I don't know, maybe see a fake punt by the Steelers this week. I don't know, but it goes back to what we were talking about Matt Cannon and all earlier. If you have it in the bag, pull it out this week. And we promise not to, or at least we'll try to promise not to overanalyze it if it goes south. But you've got to do some things to still at least a possession in this game. Onside kick, I don't know.
Yeah, or just get a big return. Just not even anything creative. Just get a big punt or kick return. Ray's going to be back. And so I think you're really good at your special teams unit and say, you guys have to produce the splash for us. Give us a short field. Make a big play. Obviously, special teams with the block punts have been, game defining and changing plays the 2 times it's happened this season. So, yeah, you got to get splash from defense and special teams. I 100% agree.
All
right, Dave, I think that's a good way to sum up the preview of this Ravens game before we make our Week 13 picks, including the Steelers game this Sunday. Let's hear from our friends over at MyBookie, and Dave and I are both 1-0 on the week after the Cowboys beat the Saints last night.
Absolutely, and let's see, we had the Cowboys -6.5 last night via MyBookie, and both hit on that. From all the biggest games to the smallest events, make every bet worth your while with MyBookie. Start by doubling your first deposit instantly with MyBookie's first deposit bonus. Double your money before you even place your first bet. And all you have to do is sign up and deposit using our exclusive promo code Terrible. Just like my listening, how I sound on the podcast. Terrible. It's very easy to remember. Use promo code Terrible to take advantage of their double your money bonus when you sign up. There are tons of great games and props bets to take advantage of this weekend. And look, you got the college. There's going to be some good college championship games this weekend. So if you're new and you want to get some of those first wagers in and take advantage of the double your deposit bonus, it's a great time with the college championship games going on this week here. Don't wait any longer. Head to MyBookie today. Redeem your double deposit bonus so you can get in the game and start winning big today. And make sure you use promo code TERRIBLE to receive your first deposit instantly in your account. No hassle, no wait. Their app's easy to use. It's so easy to go in there and get your bets in even at the last minute there. I do that quite a bit as well too. And once again, MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
All right, Dave, let's make our picks for the week.
All right, let's pull them up here first. That would be a good place to probably start here. Pull up mybookie.ag and go to the NFL page here. The Minnesota Vikings at the Detroit Lions. Lions plus 7.5 at home against the Vikings.
Vikings are without Dalvin Cook, but I'm still going to go Minnesota. Will the Lions win a game this year? Time's starting to run out on MCDC. You
think just because the old any given Sunday thing that they might. I think the Lions are going to be without their running back Swift too. I think he's out this week. I think the Vikings railroad them. I'll take the Vikings minus 7.5.
Okay.
All right, Cardinals at the Chicago Bears. I think the Cardinals get a couple players maybe back this week, and I believe the Cardinals coming off the bye. I believe they are. 7.5, laying 7.5 on the road against the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, give me the Cardinals. It does look like Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins will play this weekend. Should lead to a big win for Arizona.
I'm with you. Give me the Arizona Cardinals lay to 7.5 points. Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. The Buccaneers now without two wide receivers in Mike Evans and one Antonio Brown. Are you clutching your pearls? Are you shocked with Antonio?
Shocked beyond belief now. It's such an AB thing to do. So what's the line on this game?
This one is 11. Buccaneers still on the road, laying 11 against the Falcons.
It's a pretty big line. On the road, Bucs are going to win. Falcons, I'll say cover.
I think the Buccaneers run them out there, so I'll lay to 11 despite not having a couple players there. Indianapolis Colts on the road against the Houston Texans. One week the Colts look like, man, this is a team that might compete for the AFC title. Then next week you think, I don't know about that. Even so, Colts on the road laying 10 against the Houston Texans.
Yeah, give me the Colts. They are playing well. Jonathan Taylor, I mean, really should be an MVP type of candidate, and so good ground game. Carson Wentz playing better. Give me the Colts.
Boy, I tell you, Jonathan Taylor. One of the main worries I had about him was holding on to the football, but he has done that. He really looks like he is a real deal for him or for them, and obviously they got some good offensive linemen to run behind there. And I think Frank Wright's probably one of the more underrated head coaches, I think, in the NFL. All that and as long as Wentz doesn't turn the football over, which I think he did in that last game there a couple times. Give me the Colts. I'm with you. Colts lay to 10 in this one. Eagles at the Jets. Eagles on the road laying 7. A lot of road team favored by touchdown or more this week.
Yeah, a lot of big lines in general.
Which Eagles team is going to show up?
That's a very good point. Yeah, which Jalen Hurts shows up? I think good Eagles, good Hurts shows up, and so give me Philly.
I'm with you on this one, too. I'm laying the 7 with the Eagles on this one. The Chargers at the Bengals. The Chargers is another team like the Colts. One week they look good, and then next week you say, I don't know. Bengals obviously coming off of a big win against the Steelers. Is this a letdown game of any kind for the Bengals? Bengals at home laying 3 against the Chargers.
I don't think it will be. I think the Bengals are a solid, stable team. I will say the Chargers don't have to run the ball as much as other teams, which gives them a better chance. I think it will be a very close kind of fourth quarter, down to the wire game, but the Bengals win by 4 or 5 points, so give me the Bengals.
I'm going the other way from you. I'm going the Chargers, and I go the money line. Chargers in a road win against the Bengals here, so I want that +3 here for sure. Giants on the road against the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins at home laying 4.5 against the G man.
Well, I will not be watching this game, I'll tell you that much. I don't have a great feeling either way. Give me Miami.
Yeah, I'm staying away from this one. My gut tells me, though, that the Giants keep this to a field goal game. So give me the Giants plus the 4.5 points in this one. Washington football team on the road against the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders at home laying 1.
That Washington team, man, they're competing, they're battling. Where's this one at? In Washington or in Vegas?
No, it's in Vegas.
In Vegas? All right, give me Vegas.
Yeah, give me Vegas in this one as well, too. Lay the 1 in this one. Jacksonville Jaguars on the road against the Rams. Rams laying 13 at home against the Jaguars at SoFi Stadium.
Have the Rams won since trading for Odell Beckham Jr.? I don't believe they have. But I think they will this week. It's a question of just by how much. I think they kind of put it all together this week and start trending in the right direction. So Rams win by, 2 touchdowns.
Well, that's a weird number, that 13. Yeah, I'll take the Rams lay to 13 on this one. Let's see. 49ers at the Seahawks. Seahawks just falling apart, man. And they were the ones that lost to Washington the other night, too, weren't they? Yeah. 49ers on the road laying 3.5. I think the 49ers are starting to get healthy, too.
But the Seahawks are in win-now mode, according to Ian Rappaport, which was a funny tweet, signing Adrian Peterson to the practice squad. You know what? I'll say it's an upset. At home, one last gas from Seattle. I think Seattle wins outright.
Not me. I'm going to lay the 3.5 points with the 49ers on the road against the Seahawks. Denver Broncos on the road against the Kansas City Chiefs. Wow. Broncos they're another team battling, but Vegas doesn't like them. 9.5 underdogs. Chiefs minus 9.5 against the Broncos.
Well, the Broncos always seem to be competitive with the Chiefs, always kind of hang around. And they have, they played well against the Chargers last week. They got the win. I think Chiefs win with Broncos cover.
I'll take the Chiefs and lay that big number. I think Chiefs win exactly by 10 to cover that 9.5 there. Boy, good game on Monday night. New England Patriots at the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are favored by 2.5.
That's going to be a really good game for sure. Man, I've been still high on the Bills despite some of their struggles this season. Still got faith in McDermott and Josh Allen, but it's hard to disagree with the way the Patriots have quickly rebuilt things. It's a coin flip to me. My gut says Buffalo. I'm going to go Buffalo.
I'm going to go into my gut tells me New England because of the way their defense is playing. Belichick always finds a way to take away the opposing team's best player. Give me New England in the upset here, plus the 2.5 points. That brings us all the way back to 425 at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hello, friends. Jim Nantz, along with Tony Romo and Tracy Wolfson. How was that?
Pretty good. They're on the call this week, right?
Right. They are on the call this week here. So all that said, this is a put up, shut up game. However you want to, whatever cliche you want to use for this one. The Steelers at home plus 4.5 points. The Ravens 4.5 favorites, obviously, in this one. What you got, Alex?
I think Nance and the gang will be calling a Ravens win this weekend. I just don't see the big reason with the way the Steelers' run defense has struggled. I don't think Montravius Adams alone is going to improve things. I just haven't seen it get better. It's gotten worse, if anything. I know this team has played well against Lamar, but there's so many other pieces to contend with, and they don't have the pieces of past years that have been able to contend with Lamar Jackson. No Tyson Alualu, no Stephon Tuitt, no Mike Hilton, no unlikely, at least TJ Watt, et cetera, et cetera. Probably no Joe Hayden in this game. You get the picture. So, got Baltimore winning this one 30 to 16.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, I might have a surprise for you here, Alex. Listen, I have zero real reason to pick the Steelers in this game. What has been the kind of the running kind of mainstream media? Not that I'm a fan of those or whatnot, but the mainstream media narratives this week have been kind of really like two things. Man, the Steelers suck. They're horrible on both sides of the football. the former players are coming after the new players, saying tradition, culture, all that kind of stuff. That's been the running narrative on one side. The other, and it's probably not as prominent for obvious reasons, is Mike Tomlin. This is the game. This is the game. Mike Tomlin always finds a way to get his team up and able to do something and win these games. When the chips are down the most, Mike Tomlin rallies the troops, and don't count out the Steelers in this game. I swore last week. I got it. I bought into all that Mike Tomlin stuff and all like that. They fish me back in, Alex. I don't know what it is.
How did they fish you back in?
I don't know. It's just the whole not rallying the troops for this game, a game that you gotta have, a game after the game that you had to have,
right?
Type of thing. No, this is just a gut. All this is just one of those gut feelings here. They get a turnover or two. Something crazy happens in this game. 23-20 Steelers.
Wow.
It's stupid. I have no reason. I have no reason to pick this game this week. I entered this week just not even ready to get ready for this game. Had to force myself to watch a lot of the second half, all 22 tape from the Steelers Bengals. I have zero reason to pick the Steelers this week. So because of that, I'm picking the Steelers this week.
Well, when you put it that way, how can you disagree? No,
I
mean.
They're going to have to surprise me. I mean, yeah. I'm picking them, but look, if they lose this game, there is no cake for good job you tried.
If they lose it close competitively,
it's not. Yeah, I mean,
no more victory.
No, there's none. You have to win this game if you want to stay around for the final 5, or at least until next week, until Thursday, because you got a short week coming after this.
Minnesota.
You got to find a win this game. If you do, then maybe there's a hint of optimism that maybe they can beat a Vikings team. And where the season goes from there, who knows? I obviously think this is not a great team this year, but I'm just going to go with the narrative side that Mike Tomlin always gets his teams up for these sort of games. So that's where I'm at on it. That's a long explanation to tell you that my analysis of this game is horrible, other than what we laid out earlier and what we expect from offense, defense.
Well, they certainly need it, and so I think this is the first time all year we've picked different ways.
People are probably in ditches right now with their vehicles, and they probably dropped their cold beverage that they're having right now, or spit their coffee all over their screen when me picking them. But that's where I'm at on this.
I'm surprised by that, but I can appreciate it, and certainly hope you're right. I just you're picking with your heart, I'm picking with my brain, and I hope your heart is right because if they lose this one, then you really just turn out the lights, the party's over, as they used to say. Danny Don used to say.
And if I get it right, I get no credit for using my brain for this, then, right?
That's a spirit, but you will get credit, and that's all that matters.
All right.
It doesn't matter how you predict it. Doesn't matter how they win it. Just win. I don't care if they win by the biggest slop fest or whatever it is. Just win the game, and I'll be happy.
All right.
All right, Dave. Let's get through some radio emails and close out today's show.
Okay, let's see what the email machine has to say here. This one from Dante Bisognier. Hey, David and Alex, just read a study done on ESPN by their analytics team that examines how good head coaches have been on fourth down from 2017 through this 2021 season. The 3 metrics they use are total win probability, sacrifice through fourth down errors, difference in expected fourth down conversion rates versus actual rates, non-obvious fourth down error rate. It goes on to write, Mike Tomlin ranks 30th, 33.1%, 26, negative 8.3%, and 28th at 28.9% 86% in each respective metric. Okay, those metrics again were total win probability, sacrifice through fourth down errors, difference in expected fourth down conversion rates versus actual rates, and non-obvious fourth down error rates. And with the combined metrics, he ranks 32nd in the league. The Steelers are an old school organization, and he relies much on his gut. There's no denying Tomlin's success, but this data is pretty damning. Analytics are driving the league more and more, and the Steelers organization seem to still be rubbing two sticks together in this regard. Injuries in depth and regression from a number of players and more prominent issues on this 2021 team, and analytics won't fill the holes on this roster. However, moving forward, it'd be beneficial for the team to be not as lost, or at least 32nd in an obvious go-for-it fourth down situation. Maybe the data is more forgiving in years prior, but still curious to hear your thoughts about Tomlin's in-game management on fourth down situations and if they'll ever embrace analytics in game scenarios. That's a long email, Dante, but it's a very good email, and we appreciate you sending that data here. I had not sent that study, so if you want to send me a link to that, I'd glad. You know me, I like the math into football, and I think Alex does too. So send that along. Dante, if you listen to the show, we have gotten on the Steelers for their analytics are probably an Excel spreadsheet, and I don't know.
Not even that. Whoa, slow it down, Dave. Spreadsheet. Whoa.
And Mike Tomlin is a gut feeling head coach there. Yeah, I mean, short answer is I think the Steelers should embrace analytics more.
Me too. I think we've talked about that.
Outside of the Peace Spark number.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm all for it. I think that's the wave and the way the league is going. You look at Harbaugh and the Ravens, for example, as aggressive on fourth down as probably any team in football. And, the Steelers get blown out last week. They didn't go for it on fourth down once. You lose a game by 31. You were down by 38 at one point. You didn't even go for it once on fourth down. So that's kind of astounding. But the Steelers are very much the gut people, as the reader said, and this is one of the downsides to that is you don't get that analytical push, and so they're going to be a group that plays it conservative more often than not.
Now they do embrace, I think, more so the analytics on the pre-draft process, and that sure does help Alex and I out quite a bit because it's not hard for Alex and I to build a list off of past or build a shorter list off of based on what the Steelers have done in the past when it comes to RAS scores, P-Spark scores, those kind of things there. But in game type stuff, I would like to see them get more into the analytics side and talk more about the analytics side too.
Yeah, absolutely. But will that happen anytime soon? I'm not counting on it.
Dante, send us the link over here, and I'll forward it on to Alex there. Dave in Chicago writes in, first question, knowing all the holes in this team, do you think the choice of running back, he set me up here, Alex.
Uh-oh.
Knowing all the holes on this team do you think the choice of a running back in the first round was frivolous? I'd rather they have a guy like Humphreys or Owe or JOK as long-term foundational pieces rather than a running back that I feel will be burned out in 3 or 4 years. Also, have you guys ever considered doing your podcast later in the day after the interviews and injury reports come out? It seems you're always just ahead of the day's news, which you then can't talk about until a day or two later. Added bonus, you can sleep in. Sleep in.
Flies Dave sleeps.
Yeah. Look, we do the show when we do it because it best fits our busy workday, and make no mistake about it, from the time both of us get up, we are after it here, and just the podcast best fits being recorded. And don't forget, Alex is on Eastern time, I am on Pacific time there, so that makes it a little bit challenging. Getting Alex up at 7:00 his time to do a 4 a.m. pod, that kind of stuff there. But we do miss some interview quotes and breaking news kind of reports because of when we do the podcast, but it has sort of worked, and hopefully people are not only listening to the podcast but following the site as well to get the updates that we missed that way. All right, running back. frivolous in first round, all the holes on the team, yada yada.
I understand all that. I mean, I will say, obviously, what a lot of people were pointing to was why did you take an offensive lineman? And I think, the fact there really weren't any taken immediately after the Steelers pick is proof that there really weren't other viable options. The next offensive lineman didn't go for 12, 14 picks until after the Steelers took Naji Harris, and that was Landon Dickerson, a really good player, but had a bunch of medical concerns. Maybe he was off the Steelers board entirely. So bottom line for me, again, I understand the lack of value for the running back position, but I just want to get talented players, guys that are helpful for your team, contribute to your team, are hits, and Naji Harris is a hit for me. And so I'm not going to begrudge a team too much for hitting on a prospect the way that Naji Harris is hitting and appears to be a longer term option. Certainly won't be here 10 years, but I'd rather take the running back who's there for 5 than the other player who busts out and doesn't contribute at all for 4 seasons. So overall, I'm not going to be too mad about the selection of Naji Harris.
Look, people know where I am on the fungibility of the running back position and what I think about taking a running back in the first round. I think I'm not a huge fan of it at all. But the best thing, one of the fun best things that I think we do almost immediately after every draft is we put up we put up the full draft order and we box them off in between Steelers picks, and then we say, okay, if you would not have taken this player with the Steelers pick, which other player would you have taken before the Steelers' next pick? All right. It's always a fun exercise to do every year, and then you go back and look at it. There were not a lot of legitimate guys, I think, that you could have penciled into that spot other than, let's say, Creed Humphreys or Dickerson, and obviously Landon Dickerson. That the medical questions with him were huge. You knew that they wanted a running back at some point in here, and the Steelers are all about positional value in the draft as well too. They'd rather have the first-rated running back than they would the fifth-rated cornerback. Just as an example, I'm still not a fan of it overall. No, I'm not. I'll never be a fan of a running back in the first round. I did kind of find it a little frivolous, to be honest with you. I also understand that and Naji Harris was my number one back that I had. I mean, he was all around back. I believe that if you were going to get an all around back, that you have to have one that could do everything, and he can. One of the still drawbacks I'm going to be talking about for quite a while with Naji is the lack of explosive runs. And I think even if this team gets some semblance of an offensive line together, you're going to lack that. Now, if your offense is able to move the football in other elements, you're not going to be severely handicapped by not having a running back that runs, 12 runs a year of 20 yards or longer. Now, I'm not lying. It is exciting to see what you saw last night in that Dallas game when you have a running back like Tony did going yard, Mm-hmm. But long story short, I guess if it's frivolous, you got to tell me what guy you would have absolutely taken there. JOK, they were expecting Devin Bush to. I don't see how JOK really was a legitimate maybe option for them, knowing thinking what they had with Devin Bush.
Well, I mean, they could have played him next to Bush.
I guess, yeah.
Joe Schobert was not in the picture at that point. It was Spillane and Bush with it. Or Vince Spillane. Was Vince even with the team, or is he released it? But either way. But to me, the question is, do you regret the Steelers taking Naji Harris at 24? For me, the answer to that is no. What is your answer?
I mean, being totally honest, I mean, I do have a little bit of regret in it, but
okay.
I do understand why he was the pick. The only other way I foreseeably could have seen this team maybe going would have been a center such as Creed Humphreys or Landon Dickerson. Those would have probably been the other two that you that I would have gone the other direction from Naji on.
Yeah, and you could have gotten Humphrey with your second pick if you wanted to, with the way things turned out. And so that's the debate of now Humphrey versus Freiermuth.
And this is not a knock on Naji as much as it is fungibility and how much does a good running back actually help you?
Sure. No, I get your point. Yeah. But I think the bottom line is, was it a good pick or not? And I think obviously you have some regret there, and I understand that from a value standpoint. But to me, if you get just talented players and you hit on those picks, it's 50-50 hitting on picks in general. If you find someone that does help you and is a legitimately good player, then I can't be too mad at that.
Just staying healthy, Naji, and the Steelers get busy getting this line right, period. That makes that pick look a lot better as you go forward if you have an offensive line in front of them and if the kid stays healthy.
Well said.
All right. I'm going to get a lot of hate on that, I'm pretty sure. Brandon writes in, I enjoyed the impromptu intro. How bad are they going to get their A kicked? Welcome to the Terrible Podcast. Sorry about that. Let's see. Another one here. Do you think if Deonte Johnson was on a better offense, he would be a top wide receiver in the league? For example, if he was in Tampa instead of Goodwin, and this is from Jay in Buffalo.
Intuitively, if you're on better offenses, you might be better overall. But I will say Johnson gets a high volume of looks in this offense. I mean, he's over 100 targets this season. The next closest is like Claypool, that's under 70. So would you get the volume that you would if you're competing with Mike Evans and, whenever he was available, Antonio Brown and I know Godwin apparently doesn't exist in this scenario, but I think you have to consider those things. So I don't know. They're hard to answer, but sure. If receivers are in better offenses and better passing offenses with better quarterbacks, then they're going to look better. I think that's pretty common knowledge.
I tell you what, he's if he's not, and he hasn't been, knock on wood, dropping the football this year, man, he is an impressive route runner, and seems to be improving a little bit too. He's good after has been good after the catch, and also if I think that's the qualifier there. What Alex said, if he was getting the volume, I think you could use Deonte Johnson in any offense and get serious production from him. It is impressive even to see when the ball's not thrown to him, his route running ability. He's not what AB was in obviously in his prime with the Steelers, but it's drop off, but it's not probably as drastic of a drop off. The big difference between AB and Deonte Johnson as we sit here in today's Deonte versus then Antonio Brown was a lot of people still forget how good Ben was at extending the plays and how a lot of the plays that AB made down the field were as on the back end of extended plays, And obviously Ben does that less than ever now. Now, don't get me wrong. AB has made some people look silly in just standard in-platform plays, right?
Sure.
I mean, we're running out of superlatives to talk about some of the things that Antonio Brown would do on a week-in, week-out basis. It's just bad that he, is the type person that he is and couldn't play his entire career in Pittsburgh there. Deonte is a drop-off, but it seems like, let me end it this way, the gap seems to be inching closer together.
It is, but it's still a gap. And
it is a gap.
One of the key differences there is that AB was unusually strong for his build, and he got bulkier as he got later in the. I think he made like $180, was 195 throughout some of his prime in Pittsburgh. And Johnson doesn't have that just unusual, crazy muscular strength that AB had that made him beat press and break tackles and make some of those ridiculous AB plays. That to me is the key difference between those two guys. And plus, AB's hands were more consistent overall.
The way. One notable area where Deonte really pales, I think, in comparison with AB is separation, ball in the air, down the field.
That's a good one. I think Johnson has improved there, but
I do too.
In a different world compared to anyone in the NFL.
I do too, and I mean, Antonio really learned how to use his body in routes, and maybe that plays into you're talking about the kind of more physical player. AB really learned how to lead into defensive players, and use that physicality, use that subtle arm to get that late separation on deep throws there, and plus, if the ball was in his area, he usually came down with it.
Right, yeah. So again, AB was in a different role compared to any receiver, but Johnson has assumed that role well as that X receiver that team was looking for, a skill set similar to AB they were trying to replace him with. I think Johnson's done a great job of that.
All right, Chandler writes in, good morning, fellas. Quick two-parter. First being, can you guys just quickly go over how important this special teams has been to the Steelers, not just this year, but in previous years in play, and the play of Matthew Slater? I mean, Miles Killebrew, he says. Secondly, a lot of Steeler fans seem to want us to take the guy Pickett right out of our backyard, but it seems he's climbing on the boards. It won't even be available, so I'm curious about your thoughts. Thanks, guys, for the best team coverage there is. Chandler, it's still way too early to really talk about where guys might fall and which quarterback the Steelers, if any, they pick. So give us some time to work through more of this draft stuff here. But Alex, take the perfect time to campaign for Danny Smith forever here.
Yeah, I mean, special teams is always important. It gets overlooked. Usually people forget about it until it really hurts them or really helps them in a significant way. But with Killebrew, I mean, the results speak for themselves. You win that game week 1 because of that Killebrew pump block, and you get back in that game against the Chargers because of the Killebrew pump block. So, I mean, those are game-changing, game-defining type of plays.
I mean, is Pickett impressive? Absolutely is. Has been. Might he wind up being QB1 in this class? I think there's a chance of that.
Yeah, potentially. It's wide open. It's like the AFC. I mean, take your pick. Everyone's got a different guy. And so I don't know which way this thing's going to go. It could be one of 5-6 different names that could be the first quarterback called this April.
Chandler, I would tell you a lot of things that I want to still look at on Pickett. I think his arm strength could be better. I don't think he's ever going to be that guy that throws it 56 yards or more down the field. I think he's more in that 45 to 46 range there. Big plays and all that he's had aside, though, he's got some talent over there, and a lot of times you get excited about the big play, but you forget how much the receiver wants. A lot of it looks like he's throwing on air, to be quite honest with you. What I want to look at with Pickett specifically as I get more into his tape is him making all those throws, the tight window throws, the out routes, those kind of things. That's something I haven't gone deep into, just surface area stuff with him. I worry about that hand size at the NFL level, and I worry about another more specific, at least general area right now is overall arm strength.
Yeah, and
do you have you probably watch him a lot, don't you?
Not as much as you think, 'cause I'm usually trying to get groceries on Saturday. But I've watched him some, obviously, and yeah, I've been impressed, but I want to watch him more, and hopefully I'll get to watch him down in Mobile. I don't think he's been officially invited, but I think he probably will be.
Austin writes in, do you think the Steelers realistically move on from Butler and presumably after one bad season? I know he's had deficiencies that have all been pointed out, but his defense has been mostly solid. If they do move on, do you think the Steelers could look at a top college coordinator like Jim Leonard, former safety, Wisconsin D coordinator, or Dan Lanning from Georgia, defensive coordinator? I think we sort of addressed maybe at the last show. I will not be shocked if this is Keith Butler's last season for several reasons.
Yeah, I'm expecting it to be last year of his contract, just kind of probably a good time for both sides to move on. But internally, or in terms of replacing him, no. Jim Leonard was not even wanting to leave Wisconsin. He's got other offers. I think Green Bay offered him last year, so he's not going to take the job, and I think Pittsburgh will promote. Internally, it's a question of who. I know you're in the Austin camp. I think it's possible it's Austin, and I'm more, I guess, in the Carl Dunbar camp.
Travis Pick writes in, this Ravens game is nearly must win, so if the Steelers get to a point where the season is over, does Tomlin coach for the future and put Rudolph or Haskins in, or does he coach for the winning season streak and keep starting Ben? That's it was a short question, Travis, but it's kind of a multi-layered one. As long as the Steelers as long as the Steelers are not mathematically eliminated, That's a number one. And as long as you're not mathematically eliminated, Ben Roethlisberger is going to be the quarterback of this team. Number two, good luck getting Ben Roethlisberger off the field. Number three, number two. Good luck getting Ben Roethlisberger off the field in what could probably be, or what was likely to be, his final season there. I don't see any way that Rudolph or Haskins gets playing time unless Ben Roethlisberger's not healthy.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Certainly, as this team still mathematically, and if Ben's going to start, you couldn't pull him when it was 41-3.
Right.
It's still going to be hard to pull him, late in the season, knowing this is going to be his last year, and Tomlin to do that. And it's not like Rudolph is, Lamar or Patrick Mahomes in their young careers that you really want to see what those guys have in terms of being the future. So, I mean, is it possible? I suppose. Could there be a situation where, it's the final week 18 and Ben starts and plays the first half and they put in Rudolph for the second half? I don't know, maybe something like that. But I expect Ben to be the quarterback for every game going forward.
I do as well too. Good, like I said, Travis, and I understand the question, and
Sure.
and it's not even so much. You already know who Mason is at this point. Unless you really weren't sure about who Haskins was at this point, but I got a pretty good idea the Steelers know who Haskins is at this point. And then good luck getting Ben off the field. That's the best way to answer that question, I think, there. Let's see here. Wow, got a bunch of them in here. Jeff Berg. Hey, fellas, the Dolphins seemed like they ran zero blitz nearly every play, and they were tremendously successful. How they pull it off and not get burnt? Can the Steelers do this? I think we kind of previewed that earlier in the show, Jeff. Secondly, what would you say the odds of this being Tomlin's first losing season? I think the odds are good. I mean, the odds have never been better that this might be Tomlin's first losing season, especially with that tie sandwiched in there.
Yeah, the schedule's daunting. This team is not in a good place. So if there's a year to do it, it's going to be this season. Will it happen? My guess is yes. If you had to ask me right now, ask me. I'll have a better answer for you after Sunday, I suppose. But I think 7-9. Would it be 7-9-1? Yeah, would be kind of my guess where they end up.
All right, we got a lot of emails in here, and we got to get to other work here for the site and all. So I hate to cut you short here. Most of these that we have yet to get to came in, I think, this morning here on top of it there. So we appreciate all the questions. We'll try to get the back end of these questions. If we don't get the inbox full, more of them by Monday morning, we'll try to answer all those. Any closing thoughts, Alex?
Just hope for a win. Hope I'm wrong. Hope you're right. And Pittsburgh finds a way to get the victory.
All right. We will get back after it again. We'll have to see what Monday's schedule is. I've got something, jury duty that might play a role in this. I'll know more Sunday night. So if anything, if we do a show on Monday, which we'll do a show one way or the other. It might have a later release time on Monday. Is kind of the way I am envisioning things right now. At worst, there will be a Tuesday show instead of a Monday show. But going to do my best to make sure we keep everything on schedule here. But I just want to alert everybody in case something happens that it does not come out on time on Monday morning there. So in the meantime. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at almost said you can follow me on Twitter at Alex Kozora. Follow Alex Kozora on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show the Terrible Podcast at gmail.com. Let's see, ad-free subscription, SteelersDepot.com if you want it, $25. And also if you want to donate for the holidays, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, upper right navigational bar. Thank you for listening to the show, and we'll be talking to you soon. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.